Hey guys, Mr. Biz here. Today we're going to talk about something very exciting. So first of all, let me tell you, do you know where 65% of all of your new sales come from? 65%. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to tap into that. Next, I'm going to show you a strategy that is used by two different companies. Get this. The first company serves 69 million customers every day. Every day. The second company that uses this one strategy that we're going to talk about does $283,000 of sales every minute. Yes, every minute. Not kidding. So, of course, great strategy. You want to use that, right? And then we're going to talk about one thing that, if you lose customers, 70% of the time it's due to one thing. We're going to talk about that and how to prevent that. Next, we're going to talk about another strategy that can give you a 74% advantage over your competitors. Now, who wouldn't like that, right? Good stuff. That's exactly what we're going to talk about, and many more. But we're going to talk about some sales growth secrets, as you can see, sales growth secrets, right? That's what we're going to talk about. So let's dive in. So really, there's only 4 tactics you can use if you think about it to grow sales. If you really break it down to brass tactics, it's 4 different ways, right? One is you increase the number of customers you have, right? And we're going to talk about that. The second is you drive up your average transaction size. So for each transaction, you make a little bit more money, right? And we're going to talk about ways to improve that. Next is you can increase the frequency of your transactions. And I've got some tactics and some strategies you can use for that as well. And that's what we're going to talk about. And the last way is you can increase your prices. We're not going to talk about that because, of course, you can increase your prices. That's an easy thing, and we don't need to really dive into that one. But we're going to talk about those first 3. More customers, higher average transactions, and higher frequency of transactions. All right, so let's dive in here. First of all, more customers. So a bunch of different ways. I'm not going to talk about all the normal ways you heard about before a million times. Let me give you some things that are a little bit outside the box. Maybe you haven't heard as often, but so again, are sort of untapped and may give you an advantage because maybe your competitors are using all the ones that we've all heard of, right? So the first way to increase your number of customers is seek referral partners. Okay. And so think of someone, and you got to think outside the box on that too. Think of a business, a partner that has a complementary product or service to yours. So let's say, for example, if you're in the service business, you're a plumber, go to a plumbing supply store and think about it. Because if you've got people who are trying to DIY and they come into that plumbing supply store, they're probably messing some things up. If they're anything like Mr. Biz, right? Try to DIY stuff, and all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, I should have just paid someone to do this because I made more of a problem than that existed to start. Talk to a plumbing supply store. Say, hey, you know what? If someone comes in here and is looking for a plumber, send them my way. And then you can work out some sort of thing to where you could give them a referral back, a flat fee per person they send your way. Maybe it's a percentage of the job that person sends you, things that way. But think about, other trades. So again, if you're a plumber, think about partnering with an electrician. An electrician's in doing maybe remodeling work at a house, and they go, we do electrical work, but we don't do plumbing work. That's an easy opportunity to build, and you can refer back to them, right? Obviously, you want to make sure that who you're referring to does good quality work, et cetera. But very important, consider those things. And there's a whole, again, I'm not going to go into all of them. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do that, but think outside the box a little bit in coming up with those partners. That allows you to tap into their customer base, right? And they're not competitors. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win for the customer. It's a win-win for you and your business, of course. Thanks for the shout out there. Another way to do it, growing your business, marketing spend review, right? You can just say, and most people will tell you this, well, spend more money on marketing, right? Especially if someone's trying to sell you their marketing services, they're going to tell you, spend more money on marketing. I don't necessarily agree with that, although I do think most people underspend on marketing. But most importantly is reviewing your marketing spend to ensure that the losers you have, the marketing dollars that you're spending where you're not getting a good return, or the return you should expect, drop it, take the money you were spending on that and put it into the ones that are winners, that are giving you the most ROI, return on your investment. And again, it sounds real obvious to say it out loud. When's the last time you did it? When is the last time you did that? More than likely, you haven't done that for a long time. I know most of the businesses I work with, one of the first things we look at when I start working with them is making sure we have an efficient spend of our marketing dollars. That said, again, I should mention this before, you should try to spend between 2 and 8% of your gross revenue. People ask me that all the time, but spend it wisely. So this is a way, review that marketing spend, drop the losers, take the money from the losers, put it on the winners, which is going to help you double down on the higher ROI, going to make you do really well. Okay, another way to increase customers. Have a sales contest. If you have salespeople, have a sales contest, but not just a sales contest, right? Because you go, Mr. Biz, I've heard that before. I'm bored. Okay. No, have a sales contest during your slow season, right? So here's what happens a lot of times with salespeople. During the slow season, they know that the expectation is they're not going to sell much because it's the slow season. Change that around, flip the script, and make it so you have a sales contest during that slow period, because then you can obviously bring in some additional money during that time, increase the number of your customers. And that's what we're trying to do here. All right, so let's talk about one of the other things I mentioned at the outset, a way to create a 76% advantage versus your customers. All right, so think about this. How many of you guys shop online? Raise your hand. Anybody? Everybody shops online, right? So here's the thing. Don't worry about that in regards to your business, and except for you need an online store. So it's estimated, there's a recent study that came out, it is estimated by 2023, 1/4 of all retail sales, any type of sale whatsoever, is going to be done online. 1/4. Now think of the, not billions, but trillions of dollars that are spent every year. And 1/4 of it within a few years is going to be spent online. If you don't have an online store, you're going to miss out on that. Here's where the 74% advantage comes in. Despite those staggering statistics, only 26% of businesses have an online store. And there's a whole bunch of ways you can create an online store. And think about, again, think outside the box. Even if you're, again, go back to the trades. If you're a trade, you're an electrician, you're a plumber, HVAC, those businesses I pick out in this case because they say, oh, what am I going to sell online? I can't sell parts. You could actually, but think about selling things like maintenance plans. Think about the ability to be able to book appointments online if you don't already do that. Again, not just sales online, but if it's easier to do business with you, right? And you have an online store and or online booking process. Again, people are doing things more and more online. And the generation, Gen Z, those people have been raised on doing everything online. So this trend is going to absolutely explode as we continue to grow. So get out in front of it now. Don't be the blockbuster of your business. Get out in front of the trend. Get an online store, make it so you can do online booking, things like that make it easy for people to do business with you. That's going to increase your number of customers. Think about it. In your town, there's probably several, if not tens or maybe even hundreds, depending on the size of your city, other plumbers, for example, that someone else can go to. What's going to drive you? What's going to get you the business versus someone else? You got to have a good reputation, do good work, decent prices, but more importantly, make it easy to do business with you. Make it so they can find you, obviously, very important. And that goes back to making sure you're spending your marketing dollars effectively. But make it easy. If you have online booking, someone goes out and Googles and they need a plumber right away, right? And they go out and they're online already. They Google it and they go to someone above you, maybe in the Google search or whatever, and you can't book an online appointment. They go check you out. You have online booking. Guess who's going to get it? You. Get in front of that trend. All right. Let's move to increasing your average transaction. And this is one, this is huge. So first of all, going to one of the stats I mentioned at the beginning, 65% of all the new sales that you bring in, 65% come from where? Anybody have a guess? Guess? Anyone? Bueller? Anybody? 65% of all new sales come from existing customers. And that goes along with, ties in perfectly with what we're talking about here in this section of increasing our average transaction. Think about products you have that your customers need. Now, if you have a relationship and you have a decent, understanding of what your customers are doing and how they're doing it, you can offer these things. Here are the behemoths that I mentioned at the outset. So one company that does, put your guesses in the comments here. So one company literally serves 69 million customers every single day globally. Put your guesses in the comments here. The second company that uses this tactic of increasing average transaction, they have $283,000 of sales every freaking minute. Some businesses don't have $283,000 of sales in a year. They do it in a minute. So obviously these two have this mastered, and it's upsell, right? They're increasing the average transaction. Let me tell you how. And first of all, I'm not seeing the comments yet, but again, throw in the comments what your guesses are. I'd be curious to see what the guesses are before I reveal, but I'm going to reveal it now. The first company who serves 69 million customers every day, McDonald's. How do they use upsell? Get this. You go through the drive-thru or you're walking to McDonald's. How many times have you heard this? Do you want fries with that? Right? You go in to buy a burger and they ask you if you want fries or a drink. That's an upsell. That's increasing the average transaction. Do you want a value meal? Right? You order, maybe you order a burger and fries and they go, hey, we can give you a value meal, right? To throw in the drink. And it's just a little bit more, right? It's a good value. Increasing the average transaction size. I think McDonald's, since they serve 69 million customers every stinking day, probably have this down pretty well. The second company that does $283,000 in sales a minute, and actually that number is, I think, from maybe 3 or 4 months ago. So it's I'm sure gone up with the pandemic and everything that's been going on recently. But Amazon. So how does Amazon use this, right? How they use the upsell strategy. Think about this. You got on Amazon, and I know almost everyone has been on Amazon, right? Because everyone's buying stuff online more and more. You put something in your cart, and what pops up? A line across the screen that says, people who bought that also bought, and they have a whole stream of things. And guess what they are? Just what I talked about before, complementary products. Right? They see that you bought, I don't know, an exercise pad, right? Like a yoga mat or something. And they go, people who bought that also bought, and they show you like hand weights or maybe ankle weights or an ab roller or something like that. And you go, holy crap, I need one of those too. Increasing the average transaction. And again, they do $283,000 of sales per minute. I think they got the upsell down. Okay. All right. So here's one last thing, and then we'll move on to increasing the frequency of transactions. But before we get to that, one other thing that you can do to increase the average transaction, consider if you're going to have a sale to make it a tiered sale. Now, what I mean by that is the more you spend, the bigger the discount you get, because it encourages people what? To increase their transaction spend, right? So let's say that you get 10% off your first $100. I don't know what it is, right? At $101, between $101 and $199, you get 20% off. So you go through the store or your online store or whatever it might be, and you get to $80. And you go, man, if I spend $21 more, I can get 10% off, which would be $10. So if you're anything like Mr. Biz and you're a numbers nerd, or even if you're not a numbers nerd, you start to rationalize it, right? So you go look at it and you go, well, let me think here. If I spend, in this example, $20 more, I'm going to get $10 off. So I'm really only spending $10 and I'm going to get $20 of value out of it. Let me find $20 more to spend. So massively powerful. The tiered sale, massively powerful, increases your average transaction. Easy way to do that. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about increasing the frequency of our transactions. So again, sort of tapping into our existing customer base where 65% of our new sales will come from. How do we get to increase those transactions? Before we even get to that, think about this. I mentioned this at the outset. What is one thing that causes you to lose 70% of your customers? One thing, right? Because if we want to increase the frequency, we got to make sure we keep our existing customers, right? They're not going to come back, right? There's no frequency if they leave us. So we got to focus on retention. So increasing sales is about retention, because as we retain them, they can become part of that 65% of our new sales. The one thing, it's not pricing. I saw you back there in the back. You said pricing, it's not prices. 70% of the time people leave because of a customer service issue. Customer service. So you got to make sure customer service, customer experience are very strong. And there's a bunch of ways to do that. Won't get into that on this video, but I wanted to throw that stat out there because it's massively important to ensure that while you're focused on new sales, that you're not forgetting about customer service. Very important. So one way to do that, and again, we're not talking about the normal stuff that you hear all the time, but one way to do that is to offer rebates. Offer a rebate program. And there's a bunch of ways. You say, oh my gosh, I don't have to manage that. You don't have to. There are software packages out there that will help you manage it. Super easy and very inexpensive. Here's the powerful part about rebates, other than some of the obvious things. 75% of people will spend more money if there's a rebate involved. So 3/4 of people who are going to spend money with you will spend more, which is going to help drive up your average transaction as well. And we'll come into the frequency part here in a minute. Only 60% of people actually redeem their rebates, though. So you're giving away free money in the form of a rebate, which is kind of like a discount, basically, right? But think about it. When you give a discount, the discount is right then. That's real dollars that you're not earning. A rebate, you're offering this free money. It's kind of like a discount, but only 60% redeem. So you're really only paying for 40% of whatever that rebate is. And here's the massive, awesome part about it. So you make it so a couple ways that make sure that you make this most effective for your business. You offer the rebates, but they can't use it that day. They have to come back to redeem it. When they come back, what are you doing? Increasing the frequency. And you don't leave it like a year, right? One company that's masterful at this, if you're in the US, I don't know if they're international or not, but Kohl's department stores. You guys are probably, anyone in the US knows about these guys, right? So they have Kohl's Cash, they call it. It's the rebates. You spend a certain amount of money, you get $10 of Kohl's Cash for every, I don't know, $50 or something like that you spend. But you can't redeem it for like another week. And then you can only redeem it for like a week or two. So there's a limited period. So they're increasing the frequency of the transactions because you have to come back to spend it. And you only have so much time that you can use it. So it's not like you issue this rebate and you go, hey, come back whenever the heck you want to redeem it. Now, you give them a time frame. And don't make it like a day or two, right? You got to be reasonable, be fair to people. But huge, right? So here's another pro tip on this one. Same thing we talk about tiered sales. Tier your rebates. So again, like I mentioned, Kohl's does it. They're masterful at the rebate process is, and I try to find some statistics to back up how well they do this. And of course, they don't disclose them because they don't want their competitors to find out how powerful it is. But so it's for more money you spend, the more money you get back. So again, like Kohl's does it. I think it's, I can't remember. I know Mrs. Biz would know this, but I think it's like $10 when they have Kohl's Cash. It's like $10 for every $50 you spend, something like that. So again, you get up to $90 spent. You go, gosh, if I spend 10 more, I'm going to get 10 more bucks back. So it's like free $10, right? So really powerful there. I'll give you one more thing on how to increase the frequency, and that is to create a loyalty or some sort of membership program with your business. Think about it like a wine club, a beer club that restaurants do, that and wineries and breweries that do those types of things. Again, going back to the company that does $283,000 of sales every minute, Amazon, they have a club. It's called Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime. Here's another one. 69% of Amazon customers have Amazon Prime. So not only they pay for Prime, which is, I think, I don't know, right now it's like $13 a month, I think, something like that. So it's a revenue source for Amazon, right? $13 a month. And I don't have the stats off the top of my head, but people who are in Prime in this membership program spend way more money than people who are not in Prime. And what do? Because I have Amazon Prime, where am I more likely to go to spend my money? I'm spending $13 a month or whatever it is to be a member of Amazon Prime. I want to take advantage of that. I want to use and get the value out of that $13. So when I need something online, I go to freaking Amazon. What am I doing? Increasing the frequency of my transactions. Look, everyone knows how successful Amazon is. How many times have I mentioned them so far in this video, right? Talking about sales secrets. They got the upsell down. They have the increasing the frequency and transaction. There's no need to recreate the wheel. Take what those who have accomplished what you're trying to accomplish and replicate what they've done. Not copy, not plagiarize, but replicate the process that they're using. It definitely works for them, right? Amazon, they're doing okay. Jeff Bezos, he's not having trouble making rent. So definitely use some of these tactics. So I hope that helps. Again, we talked about how to increase the number of customers, how to increase the average transaction size, and how to increase the frequency of how often people buy from you. So that's it for today. Sales growth secrets for today. If you like this video, go out and over here, if you're looking on YouTube, subscribe, hit that subscribe button, hit notifications so you get notified. You'll be the first to know when we put out a new video with some new tips and things like that. If you're on Facebook, go out and like the page and follow us and make sure you get notified as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will talk to you soon.